we do have an update on our DWI investigation. We now have 5 officers on administrative leave. By either today or tomorrow, target letters will have gone out on all 5. I mean, some target letters have already, I think 4 have already gone out. One more target letter is going out. They're all on administrative leave, and we will be working towards conducting internal affairs investigations, starting interviews in the very near future. We continue to work at this case, and we are going to be releasing more information either on Friday or Monday, depending on some things that may occur that we're working with the U.S. Attorney's Office on. And we will release that information. And we are also working on some proactive measures, some policy changes, and some other aspects that will help us. And some of that work has to do with other parts of the criminal justice system and making sure that there's strong communication, and we're working one another to identify problems more earlier in the processes. It's looking more and more like we get information all the time, and we're really sticking to the fact that we think this goes back quite a distance of time, like possibly a decade or more. So we will continue our investigation on our side. Administratively, we'll continue to support FBI, and I understand the frustration of the community. I understand frustrations of individuals throughout the community. I ask for patience. We've always been a very transparent, open administration, and I hope that everybody remembers, like, this is the one time Chief has had to say, I can't give you that information. And I think it's very easy for people to look back through various situations within the Albuquerque department. And as my tenure as chief, and it is extremely rare that I've had to say, I can't comment on that right now. And we can't comment. We have limitations on what we could do. And I think this investigation is too important for us. I want to thank the members of City Council that have reached out to me, and those that I have spoken to in the last 24 hours, and they have offered support. And we've come to a very good place. And there are a couple more I got to work on. And hopefully in the near future, we could also come to a great place where there's an understanding that we have a great relationship that assists us not only in the moment, but assists us in helping do the best thing for the citizens of Albuquerque. So that's kind of our update. You know, I'm limited in what I can say, but I will take some questions before I get to the next one. Faith.
Thank you. How did a group of officers not show up to court 29 times for the same attorney, causing cases to be dismissed?
I have an answer, but it's not only an answer that Harold Medina can provide. And in the near future, that is part of what we have to correct. And out of respect for the other entities involved in this, I think that we are at a time going to have to all come together to talk about how this happened and how we are correcting this in the future.
So I was going to ask you, did you guys even notice and not take any action, or did you guys?
I can tell you this much. Every single missed court notice the Albuquerque Police Department has received has an investigation accompanying it. Every time we receive notice, we look into it. And that's a zero tolerance policy, and we could work with that with IA. Yes?
So we spoke with the mayor. We had an interview with him.
Yes.
And we asked him a few questions about the raids and his thoughts and what have you. And he specifically stated APD, I also don't believe is the only agency being looked at. What other agencies is he referring to? Because we did ask him as well, just to be
I am not getting into, and I've had a hard line on this. I am not going to get into the specifics of this investigation and who else, what else, anything else that it may involve. And we're going to leave it at that.
One more, hold on.
Yes.
We've asked you several times for an interview since the story broke on the 18th on Thursday, and you declined us. You spoke with other media outlets, which is fine. They're our colleagues, but we also want to know why.
You know, there's only so much time Chief has in the day. And there are 3 major media outlets in the city of Albuquerque, 1 major newspaper, and 2 Spanish stations. I had to split my time. I knew that Mayor had given you an interview prior because that interview, you guys actually got the first interview. After your interview occurred, I was able to get to 2 more stations. Mayor covered you guys, I covered 2 stations, and I did an interview with the Spanish stations and with our local newspaper. There's only so much time I have in a day. I think my family would tell you that I've been spread thin and I've been home very little. And if I am home, I am on the phone working, doing other things. So I think that if we look back and we really take the emotions of I want Chief out of it, we could recognize that KOAT did get an interview. They actually got the only interview with the mayor that the others didn't get. So in turn, I think the others could say, why did we get the mayor and why did you guys get the mayor and I didn't?
But
I think it's splitting tax.
We had to work for that interview. We
Yeah.
asked him for his time. You are the chief, with all due respect. We are a major station as well. You said 3 major stations. All respect to the Spanish channels as well. There's 13, there's 4, and there's 7. So we've asked you several times, with respect, because we want to be fair and give you that time to say what you have to say.
You know, and I think the key word there is respect. And you and I have had some very candid private conversations about respect. And if the leadership of KOT would like to come together with the Albuquerque Police Department, and they would like to have a behind the closed doors conversation again about some of our concerns, I'm more than happy to do so. I think that everybody was treated fairly. I think if there's anybody else, like Raw, if you guys like at some point sit down and have lunch and have some discussions, I'm open to it. Never gotten that invitation, but I've been open to everybody in this room. And let's not forget, every spring I do a tour of all the media stations. And I've done that faithfully to Channel 7. So if Channel 7 wants to be upset with me because I have chosen that this one incident that I haven't worked with them, and I've had other conversations with TJ and I've worked with him on other issues, and I've given him information and we've talked about stuff. So if everybody wants to be upset with me over this one incident that I knew you guys were getting an interview, our interviews were set up last minute, and the U.S. Attorney's Office actually approved me and the statements I made to 13, and 13 knows this because I told them, it literally got approved as I was walking in the door. So I think that everybody should take a step back. They shouldn't look and say, focus on themselves and say, I am being cheated out of this. There, like I said, there's limited time. Everybody got a certain extent. If somebody doesn't, like there's one Spanish channel I didn't even speak to. And, you know, I think it's important that I reach out to the Spanish community also. So, like I said, if we want to have a conversation at a later time, we're more than happy. Have them reach out to Gilbert.
Anyone else have any?
Well, can we finish? And I will go back. We can finish this.
And I'll take you off.
Yeah.
Thank you. Chief, to clarify, when you say that missed court dates for DWI cases are reviewed, how far back does that go?
We're still in the process. You know, unfortunately, prior to this, and there's been a lot of things in motion, like I can't wait till this could all come out because they will see the complexity of what APD has been working with. We just in the last 2 weeks finally got access to the court system where we could start easily looking up missed court notices ourselves and take more responsibility for that. So I think it's very important that we recognize that, and we will continue to do that. But we are in the process of doing some things that are going to be very proactive in continuing this investigation, and I won't get into the details, but I fully intend to go back as far as I have to.
But prior to the last 2 weeks, you had no notification that officers weren't showing up to court?
We had some notifications, but we didn't have complete notifications of when officers were showing up. There were certain cases we were getting notification. There were some cases we can't find where those notifications were going.
Why is that?
I think that's a variety of reasons that we're looking into, and we're working with the rest of our partners in the criminal justice system. I remember when I was an officer, you missed court and outside entities reported it to court. And a matter of fact, I think half of my discipline during the course of my career, I think I had 3 or 4 missed court notices discipline over my career. So we got to we have some stuff we're working to figure out.
I'm just confused because I thought that this was like part of the policy, like how you guys handle court cases is that there is a notification when an officer doesn't show up and you review that and you potentially penalize them for not showing up.
There's certain and different steps. An officer can call in, and be excused from court for a variety of reasons. And a judge could either accept the officer was sick, child care issues, whatever it is, or they could choose not to accept it and they could still dismiss the case. So there's a lot of inconsistencies on how that first part is handled. Then there's also the parts when officers just don't show up to court, haven't called in, and we need a trigger from other entities to let us know the officer didn't come into court, because we have not had access. Like I stated, last 2 weeks, DC Grego just notified we've gotten that access. We have those types of missed court, and those would need a trigger for us to conduct and start an investigation. And then MVD, if an officer doesn't show up, MVD's always been pretty good. They send a notice that the officer didn't show up. But then there could also be reasons. If an officer has 4 court settings and they're in trial in one, a judge can either accept or not accept a continuance because the officer is available or unavailable. It's outside of our control. So there are so many different scenarios that we're really going to have to look to see how we go these forward. I can say this, in the time being until this is resolved, we've assigned a lieutenant to work the best they can with Metro Court to try to get these fast-tracked to us and use the judges and the courts to notify us of officers who have missed courts. And we've worked extensively with this. Anybody goes and they talk back to Chief Judge Dominguez, like, we've had these issues and we've worked through them, and we've put out notices to officers over the year. We got to get back to court. We're seeing some misses. But it just depends who is, like, officer prosecuted cases, the judges have been notifying us that some of those cases are missed. So it's just, there's a variety of different cases. Each one has a different method of how we've been historically notified, and there are some things that we need to work out with all of our partners to make sure we have a consistent process and system of how everybody's going to be notified.
So no streamlined approach up until now, but now you're working.
We're working on a streamlined approach. Like,
Okay.
we've
It's
just,
kind of been from all different
it's kind of been like different angles and different processes have. And I'm actually working to put together something that I'll get into more detail on this next week and what we're trying to accomplish.
Okay.
One of the questions that was being asked already by city council was, why was there no notification that there was an investigation? They understand that you can't say a lot of details about it, but why not say, like, there's this going on, and you guys waited until after city council said that to release a statement?
Like I stated, and this goes back to earlier, and I stated the media the day it happened, as I was walking into 13, I got approval from the U.S. Attorney's Office to release an additional batch of information. And we did release information on Friday. And I talked to counselors. Some counselors actually called me, and we spoke, and I told them, look, I can't comment on it. So there are some members of council who are great, and they didn't ask any questions because they had taken the time to reach out to me. And I apologize to the others. But council also has rules. I wish I could have told one, call the rest and tell them. But that would violate some council rules about quorum and how they could communicate. I came to a solution with one of the city councilors yesterday. What I'm going to do for something big like this, because I was pulled in 1,000 different directions. And I want to put it on the record. I have never, ever notified council of a DOJ, all of them, in one sweep of a DOJ report that's coming out. I have not notified them of a mass murder. Like, I see there's an expectation for knowing and accepting and wanting data. I respect that, and we should all work together. And I'm working to assign 1 deputy chief to 3 city councils, 3 deputy chiefs. So if something occurs and they have questions, they can also call them. And I think the most important thing about relationships, and that's what we should be developing with city council and all of our government entities, have great relationships with the feds, have great relationships with a lot of different partners. We have to develop a good, strong relationship with council that's respectful, that we reach out to each other. It is not a relationship if it's one-wayed. And like I said, I wish I would have asked somebody to start calling people and notifying them after the fact. I'm going to say this, after, with the limited information. There's no way I was going to notify anybody before. And I wish that could have worked out. Obviously, it didn't. We're in a much better place of an understanding. But just like I said, this wasn't something I historically had ever done.
Can I just add something on that
Yeah.
too? I mean, in some cases, and especially this one, the mere existence of an investigation could compromise that investigation. That information was not supposed to be out on Thursday. We know that, we knew ahead of time, and the fact that it got covered by the media affected the investigation. So from that point forward, we were in a bind as to what can we say, what can we not say. So telling the city council, telling anyone that this existed can compromise an investigation.
And to be honest, we had no clue that things happen and trigger points happened, and there was no plan that this is all was going down on Thursdays. Certain things happened and certain things got out. And as things started to get out that we thought were not going to unroll the way they did, we were limited in what we could say. I still have to respect that federal investigation.
Matt, you have a question now?
Yeah, so we have a few officers who were in the unit, left the unit, then we got some other officers who are newer to the unit. Is there any kind of inclination that these allegations, whatever the scheme was passed down from some to the others? Are you guys investigating that? Is that something you guys are looking into?
We're currently researching the past. It's really hard for me to comment on that, Matt, but I hope this brings some reassurance to the community. I will leave no stone unturned, and I fully intend to assign somebody to go back as far as we have to and interview past members. And we will at some point make an ask of the community that has specific details and asks of them. And we will see where this goes, but there's always a possibility, and we've talked about it. This happened back at least a decade, we think. And obviously that unit has changed. And if it was happening at one point and the unit has changed, I think it's really easy to come to conclusions or something that you guys could dictate that you see. Yes?
Chief, are you committed to stay on as the chief of police through this whole entire investigation?
I have made it very clear. I fully intend, and this isn't my benchmark, this investigation. I don't want any chief to ever go through what we've had to go through and the struggles we've had with our DOJ consent decree. And I will feel as a failure if I leave that for the next chief. Like, I don't want the next chief to have to come into this department and work through that process. And I think that we're so close there that a change in leadership, I know there'd be hiccups. And I don't want those hiccups to cause a delay and all of a sudden we go out of compliance and we're a monitoring period to get back into compliance. There's one more year, and then all of a sudden we have to go back to the 2 years of monitoring. There's 3 more years. I think our officers, and you know what, it's unfortunate. This is a very small percentage of the department that is making our force, it's not fair to all the other officers. And I intend to stay here. I think I'm in a good position where when I have to, I can push back. Because really, I'm at that point in my career. When I have to, I can work with others and we could work together. And I think that it is important to me on the DOJ side to continue to get this department. And what I see now, and everybody sees it, our officers work hard. I see the professionalism. I see how long they talk to individuals. And sometimes it even drives me crazy. I'm like, can somebody please get him into custody? Much better officers than I was or most of us in this room with how we were trained and the culture that we were brought up in. So, no, I am committed. I know there's a lot of emotions by individuals, and eventually we're all going to take a step back and we're all going to move forward together.
Can you talk about, just real quick, about your responsibility to the city council in your role?
You know, I have to work with council. I work with council. I have great relationships with most of the city councilors. And I know there's some that are never, ever going to support me. They themselves have told me. And I think it's important that, I agree, I should communicate. Like I said, this was a unique situation. Prior to this, you think I've been back to the Albuquerque Police Department 6 years. I've been chief 3 years. Have we ever heard outside of one city councilor somebody complain about my lack of communication to council? And this is a situation we had never been through. And you know what? If there's some individuals who want to say, man, chief should have handled this better. You know what? It's the first time I go through an incident this big, and I've been in law enforcement 30 years. I'm sorry. I will do better next time. Yes.
Chief, I just have a timeline question.
Yes.
Because you gave a couple interviews when you said started back in at the end of 2022, but then you also said the end of 2023.
I messed that up with Matt, and Gilbert kept trying to tell me, bro, you keep using the wrong date. Started at the end of 2022. And that was my, I think I kept telling Matt it wasn't 2023, it was 2021. I think I kept telling you 2021, and I meant 2022. That's on me.
December 10th, 2022.
Yeah, and it was, Gilbert saw that, like, dude, you kept saying 2021. All these numbers at times, I'm like,
So
I
when-
apologize.
So when you found out about the investigation, did you contact the DA's office at that time?
No. And we were very careful. And I don't want to get into the details, but we handled this with extreme caution, and we kept it very close. And in the future, we will talk exactly about why I held this so close to my chest. But I will tell you, I will say this, for the first 6-7 months of us looking into this, only myself, one deputy chief, and one commander knew. And I set up some processes so I could start looking without notifying even all of my command staff, because we don't know. And we just didn't know where this was going or what it was entailing. So we're very cautious about it.
We didn't find out in December 22. We started our own investigation.
We started our own investigation because of some very vague allegations that came in. And there's some, I think I already told Journal, look, there's some facts that it led us down a bad path.
And the FBI had a parallel investigation, which we can't discuss what they were doing.
So you also mentioned that you did talk to the DA's office at some point, and then the FBI at some point.
That's October. In October, and I could have something, if I'm off on something, I apologize, but I think it was the DA, Sam, who called me to tell me something was up, and when he told me what was up, I immediately hung up and I talked to the FBI and I said, we got to work together on this. Now this is starting to really percolate, and this is really we're starting to see, there's a little bit of smoke. Now I'm starting to see a lot of smoke. And we're going to learn that through the course of this investigation, even towards the end of last year, all of a sudden we had air put on this and it turned a little bit bigger, and we're like, oh, God, this just, then something else happened. And by the end, we would have solved this on our own, because the information we were hoping for did come to light. But at this point, FBI was the best one to take this, because I've talked about this. The feds have a great system of accountability.
So the conversations you had with them were via telephone, no emails or texts or anything like that?
Even if there's emails, they'd be protected by the investigative process. But no, I had a lot of phone conversations with FBI.
Can you share the circumstances of what happened on December 10th, 2022? Is it accurate to say you overheard somebody kind of talking?
No. So, a confidential source brought information to a member of the department who ran it up their chain.
Okay. And that's when you started looking into it, but kind of secretly watching to see if this was true?
Yes, we started doing, with what we had, we tried to do what we could, and then things kind of were stalling out, and we did some other things to kind of start really looking. And like I said, about a month after we started working with the FBI, what we were looking for actually, boom, out of nowhere it rose, and we were like, God, there it is right there. But FBI was already going down their path, so we passed all that information on to them. And then in December, we had another incident, like, boom, another bit of information, and we passed it over to FBI. Yes, yeah.
I don't think anyone was trying to jeopardize the investigation. I don't think that was the goal for anyone, but what do you have to say? Because I feel like the community feels there's a lack of trust. I know during an investigation, there's details that just can't come out, but I think the biggest question, majority of the community, they're just saying, how come you guys as a department just didn't come out right away? Like, this is what it is, this is what we're dealing with, we can't talk right now.
I think when the U.S. Attorney talks and they talk about how the chief also didn't have all the details, I wanted to be shielded from certain aspects of this. There are things I wanted to give, but I didn't want to receive. I want this to be a nice, clean-cut investigation. And the feds also work that way. And I think when the U.S. Attorney and everybody gets in front of the camera and you guys hear firsthand that the chief didn't even have all the details, and I still don't have every single detail. I think it will put a lot of people's minds at ease. And like I said, this is first time in my career, 30 years, that I go through something like this. If I had a misstep in communication and people want to condemn me for that, I'm sorry. I've done the best I could. I think we've had a lot of successes. We've seen a great 2023 year. And if there's individuals who want to judge me on the communication of this incident and not look at everything I did to bring this to the forefront and get this resolved, I think those individuals are more about me personally than the work that I'm doing.
You
Yes, sir.
mentioned that there was gonna be more information on Friday. I don't know if you meant tomorrow or next week, but will you be identifying the officers or no?
I didn't hear that last part.
Will you be identifying the officers?
No.
No.
Okay. What kind of new information do you plan on getting?
We plan on talking about some proactive measures we're going forward, but some of the proactive measures are actually going to really potentially expose how this all occurred. So I'm being very cautious, and I sent those new directives to the U.S. Attorney's Office to have them review, and I'm kind of at their mercy. When I have a good relationship, and I told Alex, people could beat on me over this, and when you feel comfortable and you want me to, I will release this. We have several stuff. We'll make another announcement next week on Monday or Tuesday. There will be an announcement, and me and Raul from FBI came to an agreement on that this morning. Anything else?
I have just one more question, Chief.
Yes.
When you learned about this over a year ago, were the allegations not serious enough to take them off the streets at that point? Because one of the officers went on to make Officer of the Year for DWIs.
We couldn't substantiate enough. We all know that our officers have a Bill of Rights. We have a collective bargaining agreement where we have 180 days. And we've struggled with that 180 days, not in the terms that we can't get it done in 180 days, prematurely pulling the trigger and sending out target letters. It had to be done when we had the right amount of evidence. And we, like I said earlier, we had smoke, but we didn't have anything that we could go forward with. And had we started internal investigations and criminal investigations and exposed this in December of 22, we would have failed, without a doubt. These officers would have won their personnel cases. We would not have been able to terminate them, and the criminal case would have been jeopardized and it would have never gone forward. So we made decisions of protecting the integrity of that case and making sure that we had a case that was prosecutable and that we had a strong case to go through the internal affairs process.
And some of the information was wrong.
Yeah,
So
some of
had
the
we moved
info was
forward, it
wrong.
would have been-
Had we moved forward, we were wrong. We would have, we had the wrong factual. There's some facts that were just wrong. We had information that took us down a bad rabbit hole.
This 180-day rule, can you expand on that just for the community? Maybe-
100, did I say 180 days? Is it 120? I think it's 120. We have 80 days, 90, we used to have 90 days with 30-day extension. We have 120 days to complete a administrative investigation. Then they have a review period and it has to be done. So if we can't get a case done in 120 days internal affairs-wise, then we're going to have problems.
What, does that time clock start with those target
The
letters or?
Yes, target letters trigger the start of it, and we have certain timeframes for the target letters. So it's very complex, and we knew that we had to be aware of those.
So from this week, we've got 120 days.
From these target letters going out, they have, once they receive them, they have 120 days to complete the investigation. Then it goes into a review period, and then the findings will come out.
Okay, thanks.
So we're looking somewhere, I would say about 150 days we should be looking for answers. Unless things happen beforehand that just shorten it and we can move faster.
Okay. Oh, are you done?
Last one though.
Last one,
Let's
okay,
go.
I promise. How many times did these officers in question that missed court, how many times was that led to the dismissal?
I think it varies. I've seen judges that vary. I looked at a case today that the individual missed court 3 times before it was dismissed. I can personally tell you as an officer, I had cases that were dismissed on the first time. And it doesn't always have to be court. Like, this is where this gets complicated and we're trying to filter through what our understanding is. Remember, a year ago, it changed. It changed, and now you guys are all going to go back and start looking for this detail. A year ago, or a couple years ago, the Supreme Court changed. We no longer have pretrial interviews. before this, it would have been very easy to miss a pretrial interview and the case get dismissed. So things have also changed within the system that now caused it to be a dismissal from court. So it may not have always been that way going back decades. It could have been simply missing a pretrial interview. So now you guys could all go do your research and start looking at that angle. Any other questions? Thanks.